Hello, everyone, and welcome to our panel, Confidential and Trustless AI Agents. How does Web3 infrastructure, how does the Web3 infrastructure help us in the autonomous machine collaboration? We are at a moment where AI has moved beyond just a simple automation. They can now interact with other systems, they can make decisions and even transact value on behalf of humans. However, for all this to happen in a safe and confidential and secure way, we need those AI agents to operate. We need them to operate in a confidential and also trustless way, meaning securing the sensitive information and also ensuring that all the actions can be verified without the need of a centralized authority. And Web3 infrastructure is holding some really promising opportunities here. I'm Ekaterini. I'm part of the TUM Blockchain Club since 2 years, and I'm really excited to be guiding this discussion today. I'm here with 4 panelists, with Bastian, Theresa, Marko, and Peter. Each of them is going to bring different and unique perspectives to this discussion, from industry and confidential compute to regulation, startups, and secure systems. I would like, before we dive into the deeper discussion, to ask my panelists for a short introduction of themselves. Could you briefly share who you are and what is your relation to the topic of AI agents and trustless systems? Could you please, Bastian, begin?
So hi, I'm Basti. I'm the director for AI at the TUM Venture Labs, and as such, I'm working with a lot of researchers, a lot of startups from TUM that build mostly AI systems. Some of them, very few of them, actually trustless, and yeah, probably in the broader AI space, a little bit seasoned.
Yeah. Okay, I'm Theresa. I am Digital Solutions Manager at Corpa Group, which is a global acting trust company. We are regulated by the Financial Market Authority in Liechtenstein, where our headquarters is based. And my personal background is that I work on responsible AI since 2019. I have been in the financial industry for over 4 years now, software development, and now working especially on crypto topics and blockchain topics due to our current projects that we have.
Hey, I'm Marko. Pleasure to be here. I'm head of AI at Oasis, and we have been around for quite a while. We first launched in 2018, and more than 2 years ago, we launched a confidential EVM, so you could have on-chain privacy in a Solidity world. What we realized last year with the advance of decentralized AI was that TEs, which was the basis for our on-chain privacy, are actually also really well suited for verifiability of compute, specifically AI compute that happens off-chain. And everyone had this big challenge of how do you merge this system of like a deterministic blockchain with non-deterministic LLM results. And we think these are cool solutions, so we are currently helping lots of teams build trustless agents.
So hi, Peter Busch here. I'm the chairman of the FedGI Foundation, but in the first position, I'm the director of technology management at Busch. In that position, we founded co-founded together with Fetch the FGR Foundation several years ago, reporting to the board of management for mobility in Busch, looking over the strategies of distributed systems. So I'm the product owner for global DLT there. In the space for 10 years now, directly looking at this DLT and all the cryptocurrency haze and all that stuff that we have done there. More to that maybe later in my keynote, because then I go into the use cases and what we're going to do, what is the roadmap and all that. Then you will find out more about that.
Thank you all of you for introducing your backgrounds. I would like now to start with the first question. If all of you could share, what does it really mean for an AI agent to be confidential and trustless? And why is this so hard to be achieved? And if you could also share your perspectives on how can the Web3 infrastructure help to achieve this?
Okay. So maybe start with why it's so hard. I think one reason why it's so hard is because it's so hard to define in technological terms. Which architecture? There's not a dominant architecture pattern to accomplish something like this, but more important, what the startups see very much in the market is that the market is so early trying to figure out how AI works in general, how agents work in general, that this next level of making them machine-to-machine enabled, and the level after that to also making this trustworthy in whatever way, if it's trustless or with some central trust engaged, and then also to make it confidential. This is so many steps from where the reality of so much of the applicant layer is right now to where it should go, that this way towards application is still passed with so many question marks that I think a lot of early companies having trouble to defining how this entire thing is going to play out.
So when I give you a quick practical example on this, from the perspective of a regulated financial institution. So basically, you as a regulated financial institution have to comply to the rules that the Financial Market Authority give you, which means when you, an example, onboard a customer, for example, you go to a bank and you want to have a bank account, you have to have the steps visible why it is decided that you will get that bank account. And this is very crucial in the compliance, looking at the compliance level, to say, okay, this is why we don't give this person the bank account, or this is why we give it. And when we can use AI in this, AI agents to automate some processes in here, we can use them, but we need to explain them. And the issue is that it is very difficult in the machine learning lifecycle to explain every step on the one hand, but on the other hand, to promise that there has not been any security issue in this site, looking at like the data level in the beginning for adversarial attacks, for example, but also looking more in like the practical examples you give the AI agent asks the person for like the CV. The CV gets handed in, but in the CV there has been like malicious data, and then you have a virus inside of your system. So this is something that you need to also consider, and this is something that we are working on.
Yeah, I think one big problem is that everyone has different definitions and assumptions for trust. So for me, the basis of everything that I will be talking about is that I want to use an agent that I have not built myself. So someone here has developed it, and I cannot run it locally because I don't have the right compute hardware. And I think that's the case for most people. So how can I trust this agent? I think there's many aspects that go into it. And again, like everyone has different criteria. For me personally, for example, it would need to be open source, audited. I would need to have some compute integrity. Like, how do I know this output is coming actually from the agent? I want to have a way to reproduce what is actually being run. Some of those solutions, some of those problems can be solved with TEs. Then, of course, you always run into this problem if we're talking about on-chain agents, for example, trading or DeFi. Who controls the agent private key? That's something that I always ask people when they talk about it, because it's not that trivial to separate yourself from this private key, and yourself, I mean the builder of this agent. So in general, I think everything goes towards minimizing the impact that a malicious developer can have on an agent.
Just can underline all what you just said. But from the perspective out of the industry, the automotive industry in particular here, trust is everything when we go on the roads with our cars. So our main thing is really safety, and this next thing, of course, is security, cybersecurity in the future. So we need definitely to trust every data which goes out of the car or comes into the car. When we talk about later, when it comes agents, is the perfect means in the future for doing stuff for us inside of the car. Yeah? When I have to do several things, I go into the use case later, we need to trust them. And one thing comes together here, which we definitely need to have here. We need to have an infrastructure which is capable of giving us that trust. And we do not see the trust yet here in surroundings around us. And that's why we're fighting almost 10 years now again to convince our management and the management of our customers, the OEMs, that maybe the hyperscalers, the big techs, are not the best source for trust. Yeah, we see this all today, what's happening here. And so we need we fight for the infrastructure, we fight for the understanding. Yeah? We do a lot of educational learning processes as well for the industry. However, we need infrastructure, we need the best developers that we can trust to do that stuff. And we need really a means of decentralization that we can use to run them on. Exactly, compute layers and stuff. And exactly, because when we think about automotive industry, we talk cars still, yeah, we talk infrastructure, charging poles, buildings, and all that. And these need to have some kind of a hardware which can deploy their own agents or use them and then run them. And that's what we're working on. You see that later.
I totally agree. Thank you all for sharing your insights. Staying on the same topic, confidential compute and TEs are central to enable private AI agents. How do they make the trustless collaboration between the AI agents possible in practice? Would you like to start, Marko, perhaps?
Yeah, sure. So the problems that I mentioned before can be solved by running agents in TEs, but it is not this all-in solution, because just running something in a TE provides you this compute integrity. Like, you can have remote attestations that are kind of the proof verifying that nothing was messed with the hardware. This output is actually coming from the code inside the secure enclave. But TEs provide lots of different things. For example, at Oasis, we have a key manager committee that uses also some MPC protocols for defense in depth that can provide these decryption keys to then different applications that need it. So you can have computation on data that is running in the secure enclave that was before encrypted and afterward is encrypted again. So you also get these confidentiality benefits. I have to say, currently, with all the agent projects that we work with, confidentiality or privacy is more of an extra feature and actually not the thing why they come to us. It's really more this trusting and verifiability of the compute, because it's really not that easy to solve. And I personally think that is one of the reasons why we don't have more adoption of DeFi agents. Like, this was such a hype the whole year. And I don't know, if I would ask the people here to raise their hand on who's actually using DeFi agents, I doubt it would be many.
I think I can also jump into that because when we're looking at a particular application of this, we see that it is so cost intensive to make it secure, and the costs don't, like, you don't come out in zero, but you come out in minus in the end. When you have a big project, like a big agent that you're running, you have lots of data, depending on the use case, you have very much inference input and output that you get. So it does not make, in most of the cases, sense in an economical way to do it. In a confidential way, it does make sense often, even if it does not solve all of the issues that we currently have in the security area, but still, it's too expensive yet.
Like to jump in?
When it comes to trusted execution environments, this is really one of the core questions we in the industry have when it comes to the hardware, because we have a lot of ECUs, yeah, the control units in the car, who help you really to compute that decisions that a car has to make on your behalf. And we run already some, I would say, cryptocurrency algorithms on them. mainly using AI, mainly using for other things, the first levels of autonomous driving, for example. But when it comes to agents, what we are currently up to, and we're talking a lot about these with the OEMs, we need to find really ways how to cooperatively use these TEEs together, not have our own proprietary technology, because that's what they don't want to have. They don't want to come from one login of the Apple, Google, other ecosystem to the Bosch ecosystem. So we need to do something which is really cooperatively usable. And that's exactly what we are up to. We are working in a lot of publicly funded projects, working together with our competitors, with OEMs, with lots of really cool startups. And there we're developing these agents, these digital identities, working together with these agents on TEs in several different platforms. And it's exactly how we could answer this, and hopefully all the OEMs will understand that as well in the future. They do not buy from us some logins with these TEs that we build into the ECUs, which fortunately still are 70 to 80% of all ECUs worldwide. And they can use it cooperatively with open standards. And this is the main thing that we are currently pushing forward. And this is the key as well for DLT to succeed somewhere in the future. So really trying to use technologies which everybody can understand, can code with, can as well understand that you don't have black boxes, that you don't have proprietary login codes that we see currently from the big techs, because they don't let us look into the algorithms, as we all know. But we need to work together with the whole industry, and of course with the public, with you, with the students, with coders of the future and all that, and all these who are let the AI doing the coding stuff in the future for them. We need to understand what's happening here. And so hardware, software, and these, I would say, compliance protocols, procedures, regulation stuff, which is really not the nicest thing to work with. However, we need this coming from the EU, for example. And there, the EU currently really has a really front-runner position, and all other governments in the world are looking closely. The others say, oh no, again, another level of bureaucracy, but if you look at the data acts, AI acts, these are really some kind of new level of bureaucracy, but however, in that case, we really need it.
I have nothing to add that hasn't been said.
As a follow-up to this topic, what are the biggest challenges that you see when regulation and the duty of care comes to the bigger picture? Would you like to give us some insights, Theresa?
Sure. I think we can start with the fact that it is very, very difficult to comply to the existing regulations using AI agents, but blockchain is, I would say, one of the best solutions we have to make it a little bit safer. So looking at the machine learning lifecycle, we have different steps that I explained before. And I think especially, as you also said, looking at how the user is in the end using those points that are connecting to AI agents, it is very, very important to secure every step on these points, and especially to log all of them, to have the audit trails, to see where was the human, where did the agent take over the work, what did the different parties do in those regards, and do we see any malicious input or something, and if we do, how do we react? And I think that the regulation runs before the general application, which is a good thing, so we know where to go and where maybe not even to go.
I mean, currently, specifically just in like these crypto agents, it's the Wild West. Like there's no real regulation. There's no even like common standards on how to interact with these agents. There is currently a very cool movement. It's the ERC 8004 Trustless agents. And this is expanding on A2A, which was built by Google as a protocol for agent-to-agent communication, collaboration, negotiation, whatever you kind of want to do. And it defines 3 registries that are like, one is an identity registry, one is for reputation, and one is for attestations. Though attestations can be TE attestations, but there's also like crypto economic methods. And I think that's a very cool first step. If every agent would have this kind of data sheet, it would be way easier to kind of pick agents from marketplaces, have your agent autonomously interact with different ones, and that currently simply doesn't exist.
Okay, jumping now to another topic. Peter, AI agents are already being tested in areas like energy grids, supply chain, and IoT networks. What are some of the biggest real-world potentials that you see at Bosch, and what is still missing that they are confidential and trustless?
Everywhere where we need some kind of assistance in the car, of course, then you need these nice little minions in the back, which on your behalf can help you doing activate on some, I would say, tedious tasks that you have to do. While one interesting example, what you just showed at IAA, that's where I'm coming directly from, that's why I'm wearing the suits as well and all that stuff. We showed how you could come to a completely new user story when it comes to charging. So you drive to a charging station and then you find out, oops, there is a, I would say, something that hinders me from really reaching the charging station in time. So what do I do then? I have registered the charging pole and now the time is running up. So I need someone who helps me in the background, maybe to the conflict management. And this is exactly what we are showing, and it's working already. Together with some startups, we built these agents on my behalf. And that's already the biggest challenge that we see, because it works, of course, with wild data. Yeah? So there comes privacy concerns, there comes as well as security concerns and all that stuff, because he acts on my behalf, really was communicating with the charging pole, communicating as well over my wallet, yeah, with my, because he had maybe to pay advanced fees and stuff, maybe book a new charging station, and so he has to have a lot of power, and it needs to be enabled by my ID. Again, the digital identity. I'm not sure who of you heard about eIDAS 2. Yeah, this is the new digital identity a regulation which is coming up, that every EU citizens needs to have a digital identity. That's what we already currently have built into these agent technologies that we are using. And exactly this is what just one example, that you need really trustful helpers in the background. If you are driving the car, you do not always want to do something in the display and where you don't find the option, the right ones, and then you get stress and then, whoops, what's happening in front of me? And this needs to be done autonomously in the background, and you have to trust that it's happening. And this is one of the main activities that we see for us at the moment.
How do you solve these privacy problems?
We are talking a lot with different partners as well, and internal with our corporate research. We're doing inventing a lot of new zero knowledge proof technologies for that. Really always having enough, I would say, credentials that we need to have to go under the task, but not really revealing all the data, which I reveal today in other tasks.
Okay, now I would like to make the connection to the startup ecosystem. Bastian, how do you think, how realistic it is for the young companies to deploy these use cases, and how can they do this in the infrastructure of Web3?
Well, the issue with infrastructure in Web3 is exactly what Marko said, is the Wild West factor. So every startup that I know that not only the trustless side, but that creates some agentic thing itself, has more or less its own structures. They don't even agree on what agentic is or what not. So, but let's say it's a kind of artificial intelligence system that has some kind of tool use and some kind of decision power. But the hard thing is that, yeah, you are deploying this maybe in energy, but then of course, very valid question, what is privacy? Of course, the user and the distributor have very different definitions of privacy in most cases. So even if you're supposed to make it confidential, what level of confidentiality do you actually want to have, which is different from vendor to vendor, what level of trustlessness. Most things I see is actually not trustless, but building something trustworthy, either by making them auditable or making them in some other ways transparent enough so you can trust it, because as you were talking about, you have this technology stack which is super volatile if you think about it. So you start with TAEs very much on the hardware level, which you can bypass, which still doesn't help you if the thing you put into the TAE is malicious or coded weakly. And then on top, there are so many issues. So I would not actually try to put it from the ground up, because then we end up with a million standards that are not compatible with each other. But what a lot of the teams do, and which I think is a smart way, to start with the application from the did I say top up or bottom down? The other way than what I said a second ago, and try to work our ways to the hardware level when at some point, hopefully in certain applications, we agree on what is confidential, what is private, what is auditable, what is trustless, whatever. To see what parts of the stack do we need, because there is not a Web3 stack, as you know, but which parts do we define as the stack we want to run agent-to-agent workflows on in the future.
Would like to add something to this topic? A follow-up question I have here is, for those building those AI agents, what makes the business case appealing, and what are some entry barriers that they are going to face?
Directly, because this is the first question I always get: what's the business case? Yeah, why should we pre-invest something here in a technology which is so young still for them, and especially in our industry? We had in the first hype, like 17, 18, with the blockchain hype, was exactly the same thing. Yeah, they were always seeing the scam issues and the headlines in the newspapers, what can go wrong and what is happening there. And it didn't always trust us when we say, hey, there are really new, interesting Web3 business cases here. This is a new ecosystem which is coming, and it's different to the business that we are used to. And now in the next hype level, after the second blockchain hype and now in the AI hype, we have to as well explain it to them. They as well see, of course, cost savings. I can fire all my coders because now AI does it for me, yeah? Which is really, really a bad thing, I would say, to do. And what we currently have in mind is really if we are able to build up this new ecosystem where everybody has its own role, yeah? Every company knows what they do. They can, of course, sell still their software products, which consist of these agents, but as well on the other side, completely new licensing model come into mind, what we are discussing here. We as Bosch, and together with Conti, with ZF, our other competitors, we are always discussing things, how to really support the OEMs in extending our services that we are already selling to them, that they are using to do autonomous driving in the future, parking, charging, all the other stuff, now enabled further way by agents and further way by decentralized digital payment systems, for example. So this is really a high value add, which they are normally pay you for and get you as license model for that. But it's quite hard, yeah, to convince the classical, would say, purchase managers of the OEMs, because they do not understand it yet, what we're talking about. Yeah, so why should I pay something for an agent which I can code myself and which runs here perfectly? And then we say, yeah, but maybe it runs not on these systems, not in that city, not with that standard and stuff and stuff. They're all are things still in their proprietary ivory tower thinking. We can do it ourselves, and the best technology comes from us. Yeah? So the cooperative way is not really there yet.
I have to say, I'm really glad that I'm just providing tooling and helping these agent builders, because being one is a pain in the ass. You have so many frameworks to choose one. There's every day something new that you kind of have to stay up to date. And besides all of the trust problems that we already mentioned, you now have, like, with LLMs, this massive new attack vector that is not really solved at all. Like, LLMs still hallucinate. It could break something. They can be manipulated from the outside. You have stuff like prompt injections, data injections. They can be jailbroken. So there's so many new things to consider when building these agents and then offering them to third parties that I'm really not jealous of them, but because it's an incredibly difficult, also technologically challenge to solve.
Okay. It is known that confidentiality often clashes with compliance and accountability. How do you think, in your perspective, the responsible AI measures can work together with the Web3 infrastructure so that the AI agents are more private and auditable. Would you like to start, Theresa, on this?
Sure. I think it always depends on the use case. I can only speak from the financial institution side point of view. As said, you have a lot of regulations that come above you from the Financial Market Authority. You need to comply with rules. Everything needs to be auditable. And how we can solve it so it's transparent is again, depending on the use case, mostly a hybrid approach due to the very big costs when running agents completely on the blockchain, which is why there are possibilities, for example, to only put parts of your whole computation on chain, for example, only the data as hash, as hashes, or the training logs only, and therefore you can create some kind of transparency and a little bit more security, as you said, in regards to the security issues and attacks that can arise, compared to a normal AI agent not running on chain. But it is still a very delicate topic and a topic that not really a lot of financial institutions want to touch in due to the fear that they do something wrong and then they are fully they have to fire their compliance team, for example. You know, they are fully in the process there that they need to really comply with all of the rules that are set for them. So yeah, there are options, but they are still very difficult.
I think besides the needed competencies that you need for knowing about the attack vectors when you are coding the agents, what we mostly think is very important to get the requirements from the security architectures as well from the governments, coming as well from the agencies, from the institutions. We are currently talking quite intensely with the BSI, Bundesamt für Sicherheit und Informationstechnik, what they think about cybersecurity in the future. And this is very hard. This is very difficult to understand that and to code it inside of our products. And so we are not allowed, anyone in the industry, to really buy or to really build in agents in productive software at the moment. So this is really, really absolutely no-go. You can use it internally, you can use this, the savings, the efficiency goals and all that. However, it's not allowed to put them on the road, especially in cars where safety relevant things are there. And so we are trying to understand what comes out of the EU at the moment regarding this digital identity combined, because they have very good security measures at the moment, what I think, for the time being. We're talking to a lot of startups here in that sense when it comes to really, okay, how can the cryptography help us at the moment? Talking about quantum resistance and all that is coming up already as well. And we're talking about, if you heard about the Sprint agency, Agentur für Sprunginnovation or something like that. This is a governmental-led institution led by universities, as well consulted by BSI and others who are trying to develop these wallets and these cryptography algorithms, talking about zero-knowledge proof algorithms, all that. And as you know, a lot of buzzwords here and a lot of very not really understood technologies at the moment, and we have a long way to go there. However, privacy, confidentiality really is the main goal that we see at the moment to put that in production, and we are, I would say, not there yet as well.
Until regulation comes, I'm really happy to see these community-driven proposals like 8004 for trustless agents, proposing a common registry, passport for agents, like doing these first steps until regulation comes, because crypto had enough of its time in the Wild West, and I think people are really interested to see real-world adoption, and that's going to be very difficult without proper frameworks and standards.
I like the idea of not waking the sleeping dogs. Because we have those regulations and we think we comply to them in particular, and sometimes if we, for example, take audit logs, then a lot of this is still stored in technologies that are not tinker-proof, or quantum safe cryptography is in many cases already solved, but then we just don't want to implement this because our 20-year-old very insecure encryption still works and we think it's still compliant. which adds a human layer to this entire problem space that we have. And I think this is something we always need to consider. It's nice to talk about Web3 stacks and what we could do technologically, and we could do so much technologically, but there's this huge human component that we also have to take into consideration when we talk about this.
Very, very insightful, and I totally agree that till the regulation, the exact regulation is here, we all have this phase of experimenting with agents. Now, I would like to summarize everything, and I have one question for all of you. Looking ahead, what is the biggest single challenge that you would like to summarize for our audience now in scaling these confidential AI agents? And what is one thing that you think will make the difference for a safe adoption? Would you like to start, Peter? Yes.
I think we really say the biggest task or challenge that we see at the moment is the education. Because at the moment where we need to understand much better the technologies to use them, to code them, we have on the other side, I would say, really the huge unknown power of AI. And this really is solving everything at the moment. Yeah, everybody is going to ChatGPT, code me this, give me this. And again, the attack vectors that we can build in this great software that we get out is not understood yet. So we need to educate the new codec generations that we need for that, understanding, of course, the regulation, the requirements from all the others around that. Yeah, so we need a completely new generation of coders who know how to build that stuff. And as well on the other side, the managers, the project leads and all that, letting them do that stuff and not really firing them because the AI is doing that for me. This is really a huge challenge I see at the moment.
Yeah, I'll double down on that because I just really want people to think about the security of these agents, who is controlling these private keys. Do you really want to send 5,000 USDC into this agent wallet? You have no idea what's actually happening. And my wish is that we change this agent black box into a different black box, but that has remote attestations called TEs, so that we at least have some improvements in these security assumptions.
I would say, talking more about the opportunity maybe at this point, because I agree with both of you. I think that the regulation, especially the one of the EU AI Act now, is giving us the chance that the AI bubble is not going to be as big as it could be, because the regulation in the EU makes only the good players and the good coders, as you said, really win the game.
Again, just directly answering here, I see a huge thing then coming from having absolutely no regulation for AI in the US at the moment. This is a big thing here that we see. And of course, who is sitting in the US and giving us these cool AI technologies at the moment?
Yeah, maybe I'm saying the same thing as you, but I would call it business case, because I feel like we're lacking in adoption so many things that we could technically do. Because, as you say, for example, if you calculate or store things blockchain side, it multiplies the costs that you have, and in so many cases, maybe it's because I'm working with startups, and most of them, of course, fail because they don't find the customers. But in particular, in those cutting edge topics, we don't see enough business cases and don't see it worthwhile enough to actually get the rubber on the road and to make this thing a reality.
I would like to thank you all for this exciting discussion on the confidential AI agents and how Web3 provides or has such big potential in providing the infrastructure for them. And I would like now to open up for a Q&A from our audience.